Welcome to Mimi's Math channel. Today I'm going to demonstrate how to convert between radians and degrees. In the chart below, you see on the left-hand side that if I'm trying to go from degrees to radians, I want to start off with the degree that I'm referring to. And on the numerator, I want to make sure what the measurement I'm trying to go to is shown. So I have two choices. I'm either going to have pi radians over 180 degrees, where my radians is in the numerator, so that means I'm given degrees and I'm trying to go from degrees to radians, or I'm going to have radians given and I'm trying to go to degrees, so I would use the formula where my degree, 180, will be in the numerator and it will be over pi radians. So I will write a note at the end, or a note is already written at the end. The pi symbol that's in your calculator is not what you want to use. Pi radians is equivalent to 180 degrees. Example 1, I'm asked to convert from degrees to radians, and I'm given a degree, and I want to use that very first formula on the left-hand side to do so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this degree that's given by pi radians, and I'm going to divide that by 180 degrees. So you will notice diagonally you have the degree symbol. So you can simplify this, you can cross simplify, or you can just simply take your calculator and take 35 and divide it by 180, or both of those are divisible by 5 if you want to just do a step by step. And your final answer will be 7 over 36 pi radians. That's how you read that. So this is my final answer. So I'm going to take that same formula because I have a degree given again, and I'm going to use that here. Negative 315 degrees. Yes, you can have negative. And I'm going to multiply that times this same formula. In the calculator, I'm going to type in negative 315 divided by, because this is really over 1. So I'm going to divide that by 180 degrees. It's always going to be 180 degrees. That's my formula. And once I simplify this now becomes negative 7 over 4 pi radians. And what I could have done is, again, I could cross simplify by dividing both negative 315 and 180 by 45. So that's how you go from degrees to radians. So let's go from radians to degrees. Using the formula above, this time on the right, I'm going to have my degrees in the numerator because that's my final measurement that I'm trying to get. So I'm given 3 pi radians over 5. And notice how I wrote that. You can either write it like this, or you can write it the way we just wrote it in our answer above in example 1. Either way, I'm going to multiply times 180 degrees because wherever I'm trying to go, that's what's going to be in my numerator. And what I started with, that's what's going to be in my denominator, which is pi radians. Here, I could do the same thing. I could cross simplify, or I would simply just multiply across. So I have 3 times 180 degrees, and I'm going to divide all of that by 5, or whatever is given. So once I simplify that one, I'm going to end up with 108 degrees. Remember, my final answer should be degrees per my directions. And then I'm going to do the same thing. All right, so now here, what I would do is I see diagonally that I have radians. So I'm going to cross simplify those out, and then I can just multiply 5 times 180 and divide that, which is going to be 900, divide that by 8. And it's going to give me a fraction, but I want to go ahead and convert that to a decimal. It's okay to have a decimal. And this is my final answer. Now for example 3, we're going to fill in the first quadrant of the unit circle, but we're only going to worry about the degrees and the radians. We'll do the coordinates at a later time. So the first thing I want you to notice is the black markings. They create a 90-degree angle. So we know that from when we're talking about a quadrant, it goes counterclockwise, so from right to left. So what we're going to do is go ahead and label 0 degrees. And then, like I said, it created a 90-degree angle. So at the top, this is 90 degrees. Make sure you use your degree symbol whenever you're talking about degrees. So if I were to cut that in half, that represents this blue marking, which is going to be 90 divided by 2 is 45 degrees. Now, we talked about special right triangles before. So we had a 45, 45, 90, and we also had a 30, 60, 90. So those are the other angles you're going to look for. So 30 goes below 45, and then 60 degrees goes between 45 and 90. So it's counting from right to left counterclockwise. Now I want to take the information that I just used in the first two examples, well, actually the one that was going from degrees to radians, and I want to apply it with this formula. So we're just going to start with the 90-degree one. I'm given 90 degrees, and I know diagonally I can simplify the degrees. I can actually take zeros off, and I have 9 divided by 18, which is simply going to leave me in the numerator pi radians, but we don't have to write that part yet. We can just do pi for now, and then we'll write radians to the side over here. So you have 9 divided by 18, which is really 1 over 2. You don't have to write the 1 next to that pi radian symbol. It's just, this is how you write it. Except when you're labeling it over here, you don't even have to write the radians part. You just do this. Okay, so let's just speed through this. We have 60 degrees, and since both the 60 and the 180 end in a 0, we can simplify that. Same thing, pi radians over 3. I'm not going to write the radians because we're not going to write that when we're labeling our unit circle, over 3. And now we're going to take 45 degrees, cross simplify. 45 divided by 180 is going to leave us with pi radians over 4. And then we have 30 degrees. They both end in 0, so we can get rid of that. So it's really 3 over 18, and that's going to be pi radians over 6. We really don't have to do 0 because, 0 times anything is just 0. But just so you know, it's simply 0. So that is how you label your first quadrant of your unit circle when we're talking about going from degrees to pi radians. Notice the pattern so that when it's time for you to label the entire unit circle, you won't have a problem. I see, now, you should see it as well. Everything is pi radians over, and then there's a 2, 3, 4, skip 5, and go to 6. And like I said, if you're trying to figure out the degrees to start with in the first place, just think of your special right triangles. You had a 30, 60, 90, and then you also had a 45, 45, 90. So you're going to have a total of 3 markings coming out of your 90-degree angle. This is what I want you to make note of. Do not use the pi button that's programmed in the calculator because that's going to give you 3.14. The pi radians is actually equivalent to 180 degrees. So that will be a totally different answer. Thumbs up, like and subscribe. Have an awesome day.
Subscribe.